My name is Emily, and I am 28 years old. I live in a quiet suburban neighborhood with my husband Daniel, who is 32. For years, we appeared to be the perfect couple to everyone around us. We smiled at parties, we traveled together, we posted pictures of our happy life online, but deep down I always felt something was off. There were late nights at work, unexplained business trips, and phone calls that ended as soon as I walked into the room. One evening, as I was preparing dinner, Daniel received a call. He quickly walked into another room, lowering his voice. I asked him who it was, and he simply said a coworker. His eyes avoided mine. My heart sank. I had seen this pattern before. Small lies that tried to hide a bigger truth. I wanted to trust him, but something inside me kept whispering that Daniel was hiding a secret. A week later, my suspicion grew stronger when he told me he had to leave town for a conference. I offered to join him since I had vacation days left. He immediately refused, saying it was strictly business and that I would be bored that night. I could not sleep. My mind kept racing. What kind of husband pushes away his wife from a trip so strongly? The answer seemed obvious. He was hiding something. I began noticing receipts in his jacket pocket from places we had never been together. A fancy restaurant reservation for 2 on a night. He told me he was working late. A jewelry receipt that never resulted in a gift for me. My stomach turned as I pieced together the puzzle. Daniel was not only lying, but he was living another life. One afternoon, while cleaning the living room, I found his tablet. Unlocked. Curiosity and fear battled inside me, but I gave in. I opened his email, and what I saw nearly made me collapse. There were messages to another woman. Her name was Claire. She called him her love. She wrote about their future together. My hands shook as I scrolled through message after message filled with passion and promises. My husband Daniel was married to me, but emotionally bound to her. At first, I thought maybe it was just an affair. Maybe it had not gone further than secret meetings and stolen kisses. But then I saw something that froze my blood. A scanned certificate of marriage tucked inside an email attachment. The date showed it was over a year ago. Daniel had secretly married Claire. My husband, the man I shared my dreams with, had built another life behind my back. Tears streamed down my face. I could hardly breathe. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and destroyed. How could he smile at me every morning knowing he belonged to another woman? How could he hold me at night while hiding this monstrous secret? I wanted to confront him immediately, but fear held me back. I needed proof, solid, undeniable proof that could not be twisted by his lies. The next day, I followed him quietly. When he said he was going to work, I stayed far enough behind so he would not notice. My heart pounded with every step. He drove across town to a charming house. I parked a short distance away and watched. He stepped out of the car smiling like I had not seen in years. Then the door opened and Claire appeared. She ran into his arms and they kissed. My chest felt like it was being crushed. The man who told me he loved me that very morning was holding his other wife in broad daylight. I wanted to scream, but I forced myself to stay calm. Instead, I took out my phone and began recording. Every touch, every smile, every kiss was captured on video. My hands trembled, but I knew this evidence would one day become my weapon. My revenge had to be smart, calculated, and unforgettable. That night, Daniel returned home acting normal. He asked about dinner. He kissed my forehead. He talked about his so-called busy day. I stared at him silently, holding back rage. My mind screamed, but my lips stayed sealed. The game had just begun, and I would not reveal my cards too early. Days passed, and I gathered more evidence, pictures of them together, receipts of expensive gifts, hidden messages on his phone. My heart ached each time, but my determination grew stronger. If he thought he could betray me without consequences, he was gravely mistaken. Then something shocking happened. Claire was not just his secret wife, she was pregnant. I discovered the truth when I overheard a voicemail on his phone. Claire cheerfully told him about her first ultrasound. My knees went weak. My husband had not only married another woman, but he was about to become a father with her while I was left in the shadows. That night I stared at Daniel while he slept peacefully beside me. My tears fell silently. My world was breaking, yet inside me a fire was burning, a fire of betrayal, a fire of revenge. I knew one thing for certain: this story would not end with me as the victim. It would end with Daniel realizing that betraying me was the greatest mistake of his life. The following morning, I woke up with swollen eyes from crying all night. Daniel behaved as if nothing was wrong. He asked me if I wanted coffee and kissed my cheek before leaving for work. I forced a smile, but inside my chest there was only fire. Every Word he spoke felt like a knife twisting deeper. I wanted to scream at him to tell him I knew the truth, but I reminded myself patience was my greatest weapon. Instead of wasting time on tears, I began planning every day. I pretended to be the same loving wife. While secretly gathering more evidence, I copied all the messages from his tablet onto a flash drive. I photographed the marriage certificate I recorded. Every voicemail from Claire. My plan was not only to expose him, but to make him taste the same humiliation he forced on me. Days passed like slow torture. Whenever Daniel left the house, I followed. Sometimes I sat in my car across from Claire's little home watching as they laughed together like a happy couple. My blood boiled, but I kept reminding myself revenge must be slow, calculated, and perfect. One evening, I disguised myself and entered a cafe near Claire's house. I waited for them to show up. My heart raced when I saw Daniel holding her hand across the table. She looked radiant, her belly beginning to show. I clenched my fists under the table and recorded the whole scene. They laughed, they dreamed, they acted as if I never existed. Later that night, when Daniel came home, he asked me if I was okay. Because I looked pale, I simply said I was tired. He kissed me on the forehead and drifted off to sleep peacefully, never realizing that I had captured every lie, every betrayal on camera. But fate threw me a shocking surprise. A few weeks later, I received a call from a number I did not recognize. I hesitated, but answered. A soft female voice whispered, "Emily, I need to talk to you." It was Claire. My body froze. She wanted to meet me in secret, she said. Daniel had been hiding things from both of us. I agreed to meet her at a quiet park. My heart pounded as I approached her. She looked nervous yet determined. She began to speak. "Emily, I know who you are, and I know Daniel is still married to you. At first I thought I was his only wife, but I recently discovered the truth. He lied to me too." Her words stunned me. Claire was not the enemy, she was another victim. Tears filled her eyes as she explained. Daniel had promised her the world. He told her he had divorced me long ago. He had sworn that I was only a painful memory, but then she found out about me, still living with him, still wearing his ring, still being called his wife. The anger inside me shifted into something sharper. Claire and I were both betrayed. She looked at me with desperation and said, "I do not want to fight you, Emily. I want to destroy him together." At that moment, I realized my revenge could be greater than I ever imagined. We began working together, secretly sharing evidence, plotting each step. Claire gave me access to photos of him kissing her, holding her pregnant belly, whispering promises of forever. I provided her with screenshots of his lies, receipts, and messages. Together, we built a mountain of proof that would shatter his carefully crafted double life. Meanwhile, Daniel continued living in blissful ignorance. Every night, he smiled at me. Every morning, he kissed me goodbye. He had no idea that the women he betrayed were building a storm that would soon swallow him whole. One night, Claire and I tested him. She told Daniel she wanted to introduce him to her cousin, who was curious about their marriage. He nervously agreed, not realizing that the cousin would actually be me in disguise. I wore a wig, dark glasses, and a different style of clothing. We met at a quiet restaurant, and he shook my hand without even recognizing me. My heart raced as he lied to my face, saying he was happily married, only to Claire. At that moment, my hatred solidified into steel. He was a coward, a liar, and he deserved the worst. As weeks passed, Claire's pregnancy advanced and Daniel grew more careless. He spent nights at her house, claiming late meetings at work. I acted innocent, nodding and smiling, while secretly tracking his every move. Our trap was almost ready, but I wanted the timing to be perfect. The bigger the stage, the greater the humiliation. Finally, an opportunity arrived. Daniel's birthday was approaching. He suggested a dinner party with close friends and colleagues. He said it would be nice to celebrate together. I agreed, hiding my excitement. This would be the night when his lies collapsed before everyone he respected. Claire and I prepared carefully. She would attend the party too, not as his secret wife, but as the storm that would destroy him. Together, we planned the final reveal. The evidence was ready. The audience would be shocked, and Daniel would have nowhere to hide. The night of the party arrived. Guests filled the room. Laughter echoed. Candles flickered on the table. Daniel was glowing with pride as people toasted to his success. He looked at me lovingly, as if I was still fooled. He had no idea what was coming. When it was time for speeches, Daniel stood up, thanking everyone. He called me the love of his life. His words made me want to vomit, but instead of showing anger, I smiled. Then I stood up slowly, my heart pounding. My moment had come. With a calm voice, I said, "Tonight we celebrate Daniel, but I want to share something special with all of you." A projector screen lit up behind me and images began to play. Daniel kissing Claire, Daniel holding her hand, Daniel attending doctor appointments with her, and finally their marriage certificate signed, sealed, undeniable. Gasps filled the room. People turned their heads in disbelief. Daniel's face turned pale, his mouth opened, but no words came. Then Claire stepped forward, her belly showing. She looked directly at him and said, "Happy birthday, Daniel. I am your second wife, and soon the mother of your child." The room exploded with whispers. Some shouted in anger, some covered their mouths in shock. Daniel stuttered, trying to explain, but his words drowned under the storm of humiliation. His friends, his colleagues, everyone saw him for what he truly was: a liar. A betrayer, a double-faced man. I looked at him one last time and said, "Daniel, this is only the beginning. You broke me, you deceived me, but tonight you will finally taste what it feels like to lose everything." The night ended with Daniel collapsing into silence, his reputation destroyed, his lies exposed, but deep in my heart I knew the revenge was not complete, not yet. He had taken more than my trust, he had stolen years of my life, and for that he would pay even more. The night of Daniel's humiliation at his birthday party was only the beginning. The storm had started, but the destruction was not complete. He begged me to talk after everyone left. He tried to hold my hand, but I pulled away. His eyes were desperate, his voice cracked. He said, "Emily, please, you misunderstood everything." But I had already seen the truth too clearly. His tears were worthless. For days he tried to win me back. He sent flowers, he cooked dinner, he even dropped to his knees in the living room crying like a broken man. But it was all a performance. I knew his heart still belonged to Claire. He wanted me only to protect his image, to save himself from complete ruin. I refused to fall for his tricks again. But my revenge was far from finished. Claire and I had decided we would not stop until Daniel lost everything: his reputation, his career, his comfort, and his pride. Claire gave birth to a baby boy a few weeks later. Daniel was secretly overjoyed. He thought maybe with time things would calm down, but instead of peace, we sharpened our plan. I supported Claire through her labor. I stood beside her, holding her hand as she screamed through the pain. Daniel was nowhere to be found that night. He had chosen a work trip over his child's birth. That single choice gave us even more power. When he finally visited the hospital, Claire refused to let him hold the baby. She told him coldly, "This child will never carry your name." He looked destroyed, but it was only the first cut in 1,000. Meanwhile, I contacted a journalist friend, someone who loved stories of scandal, betrayal, and power. I gave her every piece of evidence: the photos, the messages, the marriage certificate, the recordings of Daniel's lies. Within days, the article spread across the city. Headlines screamed, "Successful businessman living double life, secret marriage exposed." His colleagues abandoned him. His company investors pulled out. His phone never stopped ringing with angry calls. He had built his empire on respect, but now he was the joke of every conversation. Daniel became a ghost in his own house. He stopped smiling. He stopped looking me in the eyes. He drank at night, muttering to himself. I almost felt pity, almost. But then I remembered the nights I cried alone, the betrayal, the lies, and the years he had stolen from me. That pity turned back into steel. Still, revenge without pain is incomplete. I wanted him to truly feel what I had felt, so I began to play his game. I acted kind again, cooking him dinner, smiling softly, even holding his hand. Sometimes I let him believe I was forgiving him. His broken heart clung to the hope I gave. He started trusting me again, thinking maybe his marriage could be saved. But all of this was an illusion. My true plan was already set in motion. One evening I invited him to a family dinner. My parents, my cousins, everyone came. Daniel looked relieved. He thought maybe my family was ready to forgive. But instead, when everyone sat down, I stood up and announced, "Tonight is not about forgiveness. Tonight is about truth." I handed each family member a small envelope. Inside was a photograph of Daniel with Claire inside, was proof of his betrayal. The table went silent. My father's face turned red. My mother shook her head. Daniel dropped his fork, his hands trembling. He tried to speak, but my father cut him off. "You are not a man, you are a disgrace." Daniel stood and stormed out, slamming the door. I watched him walk away like a defeated shadow. It was the first time he realized he had lost not just his wives, but also his dignity and the respect of everyone around him. But I wasn't done yet. My final strike was still waiting. Weeks later, I called Daniel and told him we needed to meet one last time. I said I was ready to forgive. I said I wanted to rebuild our marriage. He arrived at the cafe, looking tired, broken, but with a spark of hope. I smiled sweetly and handed him an envelope. Inside were divorce papers already signed by me, but with a condition, a clause that stripped him of most of his wealth and property. I told him coldly, if you want peace, you will sign this too. He looked at me with tears. Daniel, once proud and arrogant, was now nothing but a hollow man. He begged, he pleaded, but I leaned forward and whispered, do you remember the night you called Claire the love of your life? Do you remember the lies, the secret promises? You took everything from me. Now I take everything from you. With shaking hands, he signed. Every stroke of the pen was like a knife cutting his own future. I stood up, walked away, and never looked back. Claire and I remained connected, raising her baby together. Daniel was left with nothing but loneliness and regret. He called sometimes, begging for another chance, but I never answered. His name became a warning in our city, a story mothers told their daughters about betrayal and consequences. And me, I finally felt free. I had burned in the fire of his lies, but from the ashes I rose stronger. I had taken revenge, not with screams or violence, but with patience, intelligence, and perfect timing. Daniel once thought he controlled 2 women, but in the end those 2 women controlled his entire downfall. This was my revenge, and it was beautiful.